With the NFL draft fast approaching, a lot of the focus is on the top guys, the cream of the crop, and for a good reason. Matter of fact, my prospect rankings for the 2022 NFL draft will be coming out later this week with more information than ever and, well, more prospects than we've done recently because I've been giving you a top 10, so be on the lookout for maybe a few top 15s, top 20s. Especially with those deeper positions. But today I want to talk about those day 3 sleepers, those day 3 gems, the diamonds in the rough. Those guys that really caught my eye during the off-season draft process. But what's crack-a-lacking? It's your boy Baroshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I always love hearing for you. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. We will have a stream later today. It's going to be me and Alex from Hail Mary Sports. We're going to be doing a mock going back and forth, dueling with one another. That's going to be a blast, so be sure to check out that. We'll have other streams throughout the week. And the first guy on that list is Calvin Turner Jr. out of Hawaii. He actually transferred in 2020 from Jacksonville. This dude's going to be a nice gadget player. He was a running back mainly there at Jacksonville, and then he comes to Hawaii. He's used more, well, obviously in that very pass heavy offense, but used more in the pass game and more as this gadget player over the last 2 seasons at Hawaii. He's had over 130 carries for over 650 yards, 12 touchdowns, and that's rushing. And then we go to receiving. He has over 100 receptions for over 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. And over the course of all those touches, he has close to 80 forced miss tackles. This guy has return experience as well. 31 returns for over 650 yards and a touchdown. This guy displays solid hands, only an 8% drop rate. Not exactly the most explosive guy. He's just so smooth and shifty as a ball carrier that you just want to get the ball in this guy's hands almost immediately. He tested out fairly nice. Came in 4.5 40, 38.5 vert. Decent 3-cone at 7.14. So a guy I would be looking at the tail end of day 3 that could, if you don't really have a gadget player or a do-all type of receiver that could help out in the return game, he would definitely be a guy that would catch my eye. Next guy on the list, a bit more popular, Meltem. I do want to talk about him because it sounds like he's getting a bit more hype as I've seen some third-round love for the cat. But for the most part, I think he's an early day 3 guy. He's got the body that it screams he's going to be a slot guy in the NFL, despite at Rutgers basically playing on the outside a majority of all 5 years he has been there. He's got decent length with 31.25-inch arms, but that 4.3 40 6.813 cone is nuts. 38 in the vert. Meltem's been very nice. Not going to be ever a contested catch guy, but who is at sub 6 foot, but what he can do with the ball in his hands, 12 forced missed tackles last year, 11 the year before. I love this dude's jitteriness. This dude runs one of the smoothest routes out there. So if you don't feel good about the slot, it's definitely a guy you want to target. And go to the tight end position. Jake Ferguson. We're all kind of familiar with Jake Ferguson, but I don't think some of us consider him maybe to be a top 10 tight end in this class. I think he just sneaks into my top 10 in that regard. But Jake Ferguson's been very nice for Wisconsin over his career. He is, I think, a bit more, he's a above average athlete. He's not an elite athlete, but that 4.7 140, like the guys that are dominating the NFL at the tight end position from a receiving standpoint are running sub 4.75s. That's just true. That's just the case. It is what it is. But I think it was Marcus Whitman, that franchise guy, that threw out Dalton Schultz, and I think that's a fair comp because I think he's an above average athlete for if you're talking in terms of a receiving tight end, but because you look at his where he aligned, like he over his career. He aligned 60% of the time in the slot. He was used most of the time as a receiver, but he is a high effort blocker. He doesn't exactly have, I would say, the desirable power to be a consistent blocker in the NFL, at least right off the bat, but he's definitely a guy that's gonna give you all he got from that standpoint. I think he could probably put on a little bit of mass. I mean, he's already at that 250, which is kind of like where you want your tight ends to be for the most part. Put on a little bit more mass so you can be on the field more. Hey, that's A-okay. This year actually was the most he actually played in line at 70%. Not a mauler, but again, high effort guy. He has been an excellent receiving threat. Only 10 drops on his career. Phenomenal. Very competitive at the contested catch, where he's gone about 58.3% at the contested catch. So you like that. He shows good ability after the catch. 32 forced missed tackles on 145 receptions. That's pretty darn solid for a tight end. That's solid for some receivers, a matter of fact. I think at the Senior Bowl, you saw a glimpse of this guy's good. He's going to be a good player in the NFL, just straight up. He may never get to that elite status at the tight end position, but this dude was just mossing people, and it's not, like I said, he's not like he's an extraordinary athlete. He's just a very disciplined route runner and a very crafty one at that. So Jake Ferguson, just a guy I want to bring up. I think he goes in that mid-day 3 range. And I was looking at the tight ends, like Daniel Bellinger is another guy that comes to mind, but he tested out just, wow. I didn't expect he was going to test out the way he did. By the way, I think I'm a mark for Wisconsin guys, because next guy on the list is Logan Brus out of Wisconsin, 6'5", 309. Playing tackle, probably a guard, but I think he could stick at the tackle position in the NFL. He's got 33 and an 1/8 inch arms. His testing wasn't extraordinary. It's really his bulk of work, where I would say his best season came this year at right tackle, but he has experience in 2020 at right guard. That's where he was playing a majority of the time. But this dude's been phenomenal throughout his career at Wisconsin, and we're talking over almost 2,300 snaps. He's only allowed 1 sack, 35 pressures. A majority of those, again, came at right tackle. He isn't a stupendous athlete. Like there will be those concerns where can he hold the edge against shiftier guys, against these speed rushers in the NFL. When it comes to the strength department, I say he has desirable strength. It's not elite, but we're talking about these day 3 guys, and I don't think it really needs to be. I think he can make him at least the ability to play tackle or guard in the NFL is very valuable. His experience is very valuable. Again, this guy's bringing over 2,300 snaps to you, so this is a dude that I really, really like. Statistically, from a production standpoint, he's been very good. Never been a guy that's been heavily flagged in college. You love to see it. But let's talk about a guy that could be a star in Jason Poe. Not Joe. Jason Poe out of Mercer. And I'm going to tell y'all this. I could only find one game to watch on him, and it was the Alabama game. It's hard out here finding Mercer tape, straight up. But it was a pretty darn impressive outing he had against Bama, only allowing 1 pressure on 24 pass blocking snaps. I live streamed Miami versus Alabama as a watch-along, and oh boy, Alabama dominated Miami. But this guy was pretty darn good, playing the right guard position. I think he has the capability to play center as well, especially believe he just grazes over 300, if not maybe a little under. Yeah, 295. But check out this guy. A 4.95 in the 40, 34 on the bench, which I think is the most for this interior class. Actually, it was just edged out by Cody Russi, who could be another guy we talk about out of Houston sometime later down the line. But 31.5 in the vert, solid. He had a solid 3-cone 7.52. And the production's just been there. He actually transferred to Mercer after the 2020 season, actually for Mercer or for Lenore Ryan, which is where he was from before. They canceled the season, and so he decided to transfer, went to Mercer. But that he was so impressive in that Alabama game. Like, this guy has some traits. Like, grip strength, solid. Athletic ability, solid. Feet, fast. Like, oh man, you're going to question the level of competition, but if you're going to have a one game for people to check out and against Alabama, that's a hell of a game. I think he could go off the board. I'd be willing to take him probably in the 5th. Realistically, I think if someone's really sold on him, could take him in the 4th. He might end up just being a center only guy if he's going to be sub 300. But again, I mean, we've seen sub 300 guys at the center position have very fruitful careers. Jason Kelsey being one of them. So yeah, let's go to the defense. Let's talk about Curtis Brooks. This cat, oh man, this is probably the last Cincinnati guy I actually got around to. And if not for his age, would be a hell of a lot higher on my list. Just straight up. He's going to be 24. He's close to 25. I think it will be 25 somewhere during the 2022 NFL season. But his pro day, 4.8640. Wild. He's good. He's an interior player. Go, Joe, get away from my shoes. My dog's sniffing my dress shoes. Calm down. But he's a bit of a tweener at his size. 6'2", 280, 287, but 33 on the bench, 35.5 in the vert. Like, holy freaking moly. So I was like, all right, I got to go watch this cat. And best believe the first game I slapped on was that Alabama game. I wanted to see how he played against Alabama because this guy was taking a bulk of his snaps at nose tackle at that size nonetheless. And you know what? He plays strong. Yeah, that 33 on the bench, it's no joke. He is strong. He stood up well against Alabama's offensive line in the playoffs. I think he's got good initial burst. He was, again, playing out of position there at Cincinnati. I think he's probably more made to be a 3-tech. More of maybe a gap penetrator, but yeah, watch out for this cat. He's been very productive for the most part. About a 13% pass rush win rate, which that's pretty good for a defensive interior player. He had 43 pressures, 9 sacks this year. Really being his coming out party, as he only played 314 snaps the year prior, where he had 15 pressures and 3 sacks. But yeah, watch out for this guy as a tweener. Again, older prospect kind of hurts, but being a bit of at the tweener size, tested out very, very nice. And I want to get to talking about one of my favorite prospects, being Eric freaking Johnson II out of Missouri State, excuse me. And the first time I saw this cat was during the NFL PA Bowl, where during the practices consistently was just a presence. He was overwhelming guys. Went to the game, 4 pressures, had a sack, ended up getting a late Senior Bowl invite, literally a night before the day 1 of practice. Went to the Senior Bowl, and he was solid. I thought he looked like he looked like he belonged, coming from a lower competition. And that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see that, can you belong with these guys? Another guy that's going to be 24 by the NFL season, but this guy's twitchy. I really liked what he did. One of my favorite moments is the Senior Bowl week was he tried and failed, but he tried for a fake spin move on the interior. Like, calm down on the one-on-ones. That was hilarious to me. I loved it, man. This guy was having fun all week. I think he made himself some money. He's been reasonably productive there at Missouri State. I don't know why I want to keep saying Mississippi State, but he was a fifth-year player, saw significant playing time in 2020, and legit, man. You love the length, coming in with 33 and an eighth inch arms. Probably should have mentioned, 34 and a quarter inch arms. But yeah, man, I think he projects to be another 3-tech gap penetrator. I like him. I think he's ready to play now. He produced pretty well for what are y'all? The Bears? The Bears. 31 pressures, 2 sacks. Year before, 15 pressures, 2 sacks. Again, last year was kind of a coming out party for him, and he did well. Next on the list, Christopher Allen. I thought we would have saw a breakout season for him. Unfortunately, in that Miami game, he fractured his foot on a sack. Gotta love it. I was watching the game live. Really thought this cat was going to be a breakout player, if not for the injury. And now we're here talking about him as a sleeper. A bit undersized. Doesn't hit that threshold of about 250 is where you want to see your edge rushers. But he's there at 241. He couldn't participate in the... in his pro day because of the injury, still nursing it, the foot fracture, which kind of makes me sad. But 33-inch arms, and holy freaking moly, if you go back and look at the year before, 36 pressures, 6 sacks. This guy, and he was just a part of the rotation at pass rusher for Alabama. Like, oh my goodness, limited in terms of coverage, but I really think he would have had a breakout season, man, if not for the injury. But he's got the he hits the late threshold. I think he's fast. I think he would have tested out pretty darn well. Unfortunately, he's probably going to go maybe late day 3. I don't know if a team's really sold on him. We could see him maybe in the 5th round, but I think we're going to see him in that 6th to 7th round area. And man, yeah, I think he's going to be a guy to watch out. I really think he could have been maybe a late day 2 guy, if not for the injury. And then Jeremiah Moon was a guy I had to turn on the tape again because the dude tested out incredibly well. 6'5", 249, and 35-inch wingspan. I already knew the dude was long, but ran a 4.76. Pretty darn solid because I thought he was going to be an off-ball linebacker. And I was like, yeah, you get away with that when you're that long. But a 40.5-inch vert, okay, now you got my attention. 133 in the broad. Like, son, like, really? Like, this dude, I don't know really what to think. Over the course of his career, because he's been at Florida since 2016. Despite that, still 22. I think he's going to be close to 23 by the beginning of the NFL season. But 65 pressures and 9 sacks over his career on 440 pass rushing snaps. That's a respectable number. It's just under that 20%. He has decent off-ball, like he has plenty of off-ball coverage. Like mainly he was used as an off-ball linebacker this year, taking 130 snaps, stepping back into coverage, and he was all right. He wasn't bad. And the missed tackle rate was good, 11.8 this year. So I like to see it. He's a guy that caught my interest. I would say he isn't the athlete that is Adam Anderson. He doesn't have the issue currently Adam Anderson has. If you don't know what it is, just Google it. He's got a pretty heavy accusation, I'll say, against him. I wouldn't say he's that, in terms of long speed, not that level of athlete, but for the most part, they tested out pretty identical outside of the shuttle. So if you're a guy that doesn't want to be in on Adam Anderson, then you could get a guy like Moon, who's actually almost 20 pounds heavier, moves pretty darn well, and doesn't have the baggage, so to speak. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Tyson Anderson out of Toledo. Very interesting player because he's played a lot of different roles, but mainly been the slot guy for Toledo. That's at least been the main focus of him the last couple of seasons. He's been heavily used as their slot player. But I thought he was solid at the Senior Bowl. It was nothing like, he didn't do too much. He was fine in the drills, but I didn't think he stood out much. And it was really his pro day I think this was the combine actually, where he ran a 4.36. Because let me tell you, it's one of those where it's like, it don't match the tape. 35.5 in the vert, and he ran a ridiculous 6.64 3-cone. Yeah, get the clock checked. But he's got 33-inch arms, a guy that I think I would be willing to put on the outside, let alone at in the slot. I think he's probably more ideally your box or slot guy, just based on what he's been. Like, the dude's been a very sure tackler over the course of his career, just 9% missed tackle rate. Might need to add a bit more muscle. I think he looked, at least in his arms, he looks a bit lanky there. And you kind of question, will he be able to hold up around the line of scrimmage? But again, the dude's been solid at Toledo, and he's been literally a man among boys. The guy's 24. He's going to be 24 at the start of the NFL season. So if you're going to be that old, then you need to play like it. You need to be a man among boys. And I think he was that. And he's not a guy that's too dynamic in coverage. Like, the ball skills weren't there the last 2 seasons. He only had 2 pass breakups, no interceptions. So not a guy that really displayed ball skills the last couple of years. I would say, like, this is where I get caught up. I think from a speed aspect, it's like, okay, how does that speed not show up on tape? And I think a lot of it is he has a nasty habit of falling in love with the quarterback's eye candy. This guy is reactive opposed to proactive. There's a lot of times he gets caught jumping, and I think the recovery speed is just it's not all that. This guy's fast, but you could get him caught looking. However, I do like the build. Again, I think he could put a little bit more muscle on his arms. Maybe move this guy. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe move him out to corner. Maybe you move him. I don't want him playing deep. Just again, with that type of aggression, you're gonna get and it's not even like a Andre Cisco situation where he has the playmaking ability that just doesn't show up over the last 2 years of tape. It just doesn't. So I'd rather keep him close. So maybe keep him at corner, or keep him somewhere in the box, where you might have other players that can minimize that risk. And this guy's a sure tackler, if anything. So even if he gets caught on, you're hoping not a lot of yards after the catch. I mean, what were his yards after the catch this year allowed? Was 110, so not bad. He did allow one big play this year, being a 64-yarder, but outside of that, like, you weren't getting long plays on this cat. The year prior, he only the longest pass he allowed was 16 yards. So, like, hey man, there might be something here. I could see this guy getting snagged in the 5th. I think that's about right. And it could be coming out. You could be getting a hell of a football player for that in terms of his special team experience. Because if you're getting drafted in that middle day 3, you want at least to have some special team experience. And the guy has over 800 snaps on special teams. So That's a big plus. That's a big plus. I think you're going to get drafted pretty early on day 3, my friend. But I think that's it for the video. Yeah, that's it for the video. Again, position rankings, they will be coming out. I'm going to be stacking those overlays with more information than ever. So be on the look for that. And even better, I'm going to have comps. So you're going to have fun time looking at what different comps I have for all sorts of different players. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.